Fantastic, everyone. Welcome to today's session. Drop in for your Q&A session on the 5 and 10-year freezer. We have seen a few of your questions on Telegram and on Twitter, and we would love to address them. On the one hand, by myself as the CEO and co-founder of the company. I have two very special people on the call as well, namely Fabio, that you definitely know from the community side. He's interacting with so many of you and is doing such a great job. And then Ben, who is leading the entire engineering effort on Cake side. I think many of you know him as well from the reports and videos and updates. And I think the three of us would love to kind of explain a couple of things, answer any kind of question, and remove any kind of uncertainty. And I think that is, very important. Maybe to kind of kick it off from my side, and then I want to see Fabio's kind of representing the questions from the community. I'll discuss things a bit more from the company standpoint, and Ben is really addressing it from a product and engineering standpoint, because then I think you kind of get all the angles to that. Very first and foremost, I just want to highlight one thing. Cake is not creating any rewards itself. We can only forward rewards that the blockchain provides. And we show this extremely transparent. We're actually the only company that I know that is that transparent to its users. Now, I understand that some of our ways on how we show that is not visible right away to everyone, or that sometimes it may be a bit, you need to have some tech savviness in order to see all those things. But when rewards are higher or lower, or when a reward is missing, this has nothing to do with us not wanting to give you any rewards. If a reward drops or goes up or down, this has nothing to do with Cake removing rewards or adding rewards. It's 100% the blockchain's ability to pay out these rewards and us forwarding them to you as a customer. So I think that is really, really important to start off with. And I just want to highlight that part. But now I would love to kind of pass it on to Fabio a bit and start with a couple of the questions that you have seen on Telegram and on Twitter and maybe Reddit, and then we can address those either by myself, or probably a lot of questions will actually go to Ben from the engineering standpoint.
Hi, everybody. I'm interacting with you a lot on Telegram, especially in the English chat and in the German chat, also a little bit on social media. So I see all of these questions and several questions, they needed to be answered multiple times. And I guess the main thing that users are concerned, or they're asking about, is I'm not receiving as much rewards as I was expecting. And there are certain reasons for that, especially during, we are live since 7 days. So in the 7-day period, the rewards got more and more and more, and they're almost at the level where they should be. And maybe Ben can explain a little bit on why it takes a while for the full rewards to kick in, and also maybe that there was no way around this. Yeah, Ben.
Sure, thanks for having me. Hey guys. Before we went live with the 2x, 1.5x rewards and the freezer, we discussed how to do that. It's a lot of user funds that we move from a normal node to one of these special nodes that got locked up. So that's the blockchain part, right? And then on Cake, we also need to decide when to do that. For us, it was very obvious that Cake shouldn't be very quick, and then the system is not live yet, and then we get these extra rewards. Yeah, that's something we wanted to avoid, right? Because the community wouldn't be happy about it. The users wouldn't be happy about it. We don't want to get the rewards from the users to ourselves, right? So the idea was that we spin up all these extra nodes we thought we need. It was about 600 nodes we thought probably we would need, or 500 nodes with the extra rewards. We wanted to spin them up about 8 to 10 hours before we go live with this new system on Cake, because it takes 1,008 blocks on the DeFi chain for a master node, any master node, to be able to start mining, right? To earn rewards. But just because they can earn rewards doesn't mean they immediately earn rewards, right? That was another issue we had. So we have all these funds disconnected from the normal staking because they're their own nodes, right? It's their own pool. And they're all fresh nodes. They're only 8 to 10 hours old. And now they need to compete with the DeFi chain network for rewards. And obviously that takes quite a while. If you run your own masternode, you know that it takes approximately 3 days for a reward to be mined, right? And that's not approximation. And yeah, we needed to do that for 1,000 nodes or over 1,000 nodes. And yeah, that's the reason why there's so many delays, right? We thought maybe after maybe 3-4 days, the nodes would find about 50% of the nodes would find a reward, and then the rewards start kicking in a little bit. But that's not necessarily the case, because there's also this concept of a target multiplier on DeFi chain. And when you start off, that's very, very low. And yeah, that a couple of reasons why it takes a bit longer for these rewards to kind of get warm and earn rewards as they should, right? That was probably one of the biggest reasons why these rewards got so delayed, right? It's mainly we let the blockchain do its things, and that's how it is, right? Nothing on us to yeah, change there.
And I want to address quite straightforward a couple of questions here. Ralph says, at this point, we are getting 50% less of the announced profit. So that is actually completely incorrect, Ralph. We never announced a profit to you. All we are saying is that if you are, and actually it's not even Cake that's saying this, it's the blockchain that's saying this. If you freeze for 5 years, that every masternode or share of a masternode counts as 1.5 masternodes. And every masternode that's frozen for 10 years just counts as 2 masternodes. So there's no promise of a profit from Cake. All we are doing is we are giving you a share of 50% extra of a share or 100% extra of a share. And that obviously applies to all the, that applies over the entire staking rewards. So at no point, and I want to make this very clear, did we ever say that your rewards would be 100% more of what you had before? Because it is impossible for Cake to even promise you any kind of rewards. Cake is only forwarding what the blockchain produces for you. And so all we are trying to do is we're trying to give you indications, or we're trying to estimate. Again, all the numbers are as good as we can, estimations of what the blockchain is doing. And if you, again, don't trust Cake, you can calculate this all yourself, and you will come to the exact same calculations. And I think sometimes your expectations are actually not aligned with what the blockchain actually is doing. And I get that you're coming to us as a company, but again, we cannot create rewards out of nowhere. We can only execute exactly in the intent of what the blockchain is actually designing or designed it to do.
Correct. I want to add to that. What happened there on Cake is, thanks Julian, good explanation. In general, the pool or the competing nodes of on the DeFi chain that want to find blocks, they got higher because there's so many more subnodes, because a similar amount of nodes, but more subnodes. That means there's more and more difficulty and the chances of all the nodes finding rewards. So that also puts the APR and APY a little bit lower for everybody. So just have to be, yeah, that was a big effect we saw. I mean, to be honest, I think nobody of us thought that so many people would move their shares to the 1.5 2x freezer. I mean, it was insane. We had an estimation that probably everybody who has existing 10-year freezer shares on DeFi chain on Cake, they probably moved them to the new system because that's the most obvious thing to do. But then on top of that, we have so many new shares in the 10-year freezer, that we needed to spin up even more nodes that were delayed even more, right? And that blew up network. This fight on the network for blocks even more. So yeah, it was a bit of a how you say, bit of an avalanche of things that all contributed to a little bit lower APR for everybody.
Maybe Ralph.
I want to address a couple of questions here, unless Fabio, you have others. But I would love to address a couple of questions from the chat. But you can, I don't know if you want to jump, if you have some questions from Telegram or something that kept being repeated.
It is more to extend the question both of you were initially talking about what Ralph said, because this is like the most asked question on Telegram. Ralph thinks he only gets 50% more, and there are several reasons for that. Ben explained due to the imbalance, it's still the same amount of rewards that get paid out, but now they are shared between the double masternodes and the normal stakers. But I guess it's also important that you need the base layer for the double rewards is normal staking. So what people do is that maybe they have an entry in the 10-year freezer. They have frozen 10,000 DFI, let's say, for 10 years. And then they upgraded their freezer. And then they think from this amount of rewards, they will get the double amounts. But you already got a discount using the freezer. You already received more rewards because you were using the freezer. So the comparison of 2x needs to be made from normal staking. So if you came out of the freezer, you will not receive double rewards. But this is only true if you come out of a normal staking. This is very important to understand.
And that actually brings me to a question that Mario is asking that says, do you reconsider your policy of charging customers who are loyal to you for 5 or 10 years? And you are charging them more than customers who are loyal for a shorter time. Mario, if you stay in the old freezer, so you can stay in the 5 and 10-year-old freezer, you get the old fee model. The reason why you're not going to stay in the old model and you're going to upgrade to the new model is because you're going to make net more in the new model. So you're actually not loyal to Cake in upgrading to the new 5-year or 10 years. You are actually loyal to the blockchain. So that is really, really important that I want to just highlight that here. What is that? I have this noise here in the room. I don't know what this noise is. So, and for us, there's a lot of work associated with this new 5-year and 10-year freezer. And so if you want to get the 85% discount, stay in the old 5 or 10-year freezer. You're not going to do it because you're going to actually make less in that. So you're upgrading. So when you actually committed to that freezer, to that old freezer, we're sticking to our promise. You still get 85% discount. If you want us to do all this extra work, all this extra effort, it's a new product. It's a completely different promise and a different product. And so you're upgrading to a completely new service. And for us, we want to get paid for that service because it is really a lot of work. And you're not loyal to Cake in upgrading to that new service. You're actually loyal to DeFi Chain. Has nothing to do with us because you are completely locking the funds onto the blockchain. Has nothing to do with you being a loyal customer to us, actually. Ralph, I'll take a look at the exact wording on the website to make sure that it's not misleading information, and I'm gonna reconfirm that. But it seems you do understand where I'm coming from. So I take that all you're kind of trying to do here is just you actually like, just from how you're wording that here in German, I can see that you actually understand what's happening, and by you asking for more rewards, I think you do understand that we don't have those extra rewards. We forwarded everything. That's actually in line with what Esther is asking here. Will we get missing rewards? You got every single reward that was received by us, and people can track that. It's not that Cake takes or keeps anything. Whatever Cake receives is being distributed. So it's straightforward. Yeah. Again, Remco, I don't think that it's actually an overwhelmed by our own success. I think 99% of the users understand on how this freezer works and what is involved. And I think a few people had different expectations. And I'm not saying that that these expectations are unwarranted. I don't know, maybe upfront we should have been very clear on what to expect in certain expectations. Sometimes maybe we expect that people understand what Cake does and what Cake doesn't do. And I think sometimes people forget that Cake is just a technical facilitator of something anyone can do themselves, and we take a fee for that. And that's it. We don't create rewards. We don't make up rewards. We don't take rewards away. I think sometimes people tend to forget that. I think that is really important in that. Of course, it's normal, Raphael, that the DFI from staking is going lower because the freezer rewards and the staking rewards is actually the same pool of staking rewards. And anyone that's freezing just basically gets 50% or 100% more share of the rewards. So the more people are staking, the more people are freezing, it's still the same amount of pool. Like the pool of the rewards is still the same. If like maybe Bitcoin mining makes it a bit easier for you to understand. There's a fixed amount of Bitcoin every block that's being distributed to miners, 6.25 every block. So now imagine originally there's 1,000 miners, right? And it's just 1,000 miners, and they're all mining at the same speed. Now imagine that a couple of those miners get an ASIC boost, which we had prior to the Bitcoin fork in 2017. And just imagine a couple of miners get a 50% ASIC boost and a couple of other miners getting 100% ASIC boost. And so they're mining at 50% more efficiency and the other one mining at 100% more efficiency. So that means it's still the 6.25 Bitcoin every block. But now suddenly the rewards are changing. Suddenly there's more hash rate. And then let's imagine more and more people join the game because they realize, hey, I can get 50% extra. I can get 100% extra. So at the end, it starts getting distributed over more and more people. So the group starts getting larger. So at the end, it's still 6.25 Bitcoin, but the mining for everyone is going down in percentage. And it's exactly the same thing in staking. Exactly the same.
I want to pick up a question from Martin here. He asked, so the freezer masternode and the normal masternodes on the same pool in Cake. What Julian referred now was the DeFi chain overall pool of rewards. That's very important differentiation. What Cake is doing, we want to be fair to the current stakers. So what we did, we completely separate the rewards of the new masternodes, right? So the old stakers who don't do anything, they're not punished by anybody moving to the new freezer, right? So on Cake, we actually differentiate between what comes from the normal nodes, what comes from the 1.5x nodes, what comes from the 2x nodes, right? So we do this differentiation on top of DeFi chain, but what Julian explained was the pool of all rewards on DeFi chain, right?
Ben, this also is reflected in our transactions, isn't it? Like we use different transactions for, let's call it the older classical freezer model and the new freezer model. So this is maybe also some users are not quite understanding yet. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Correct. So we wanted to make it super easy for the users also to track what comes from my normal staking shares, what comes from my 1.5x, and what comes from my 2x freezer shares. So what we did is we actually we needed to do this anyway, right? We wanted to be fair, and we need to split the rewards anyway. And for the users, we do the same, right? We give you your share of normal freezer, normal staking rewards with a completely original transaction type. And then on top of that, we have these two new transactions. So by that, you can actually track how does my 2x freezer perform compared to my 1x freezer, right? And in the next couple of days, if you compare what you get from the 1x or the normal pool, you would probably see, because the pool is large enough, that the 2x rewards are actually double, hopefully more or less. It's always hard. More or less double what you would get. Yeah. The DeFi chain, you cannot do that on DeFi chain, and you get rewards from a node, and it's a reward, right? So yeah, that's a layer on top that Cake makes, that you can differentiate between your services and what you get.
Yeah. Mario, he says he doesn't agree with the fee model. Mario, I make you a personal offer. I give you DFI, personal DFI in the old 10-year freezer with the old reward system. And I get your DFI in the new freezer with the new fee system, a personal offer. And then before you agree to that, do the math and ask yourself where you're getting more DFI. Again, if you want to get fewer DFI, drop me a message. I'm happy to do a personal deal with you. It's a nice win for me. Just do the math, and then let's see if you agree with it or not.
Maybe it's also important to mention that this would not be a sustainable business model for Cake if we ask. We were almost running at a deficit with the old freezer program, or we made a deficit with all the referral and VIPs and salaries and everything that needed to be paid. But also that the new freezer model is much harder to implement, and maybe Ben, you can touch on that, because we were initially thinking that it was kind of an easy implementation, but it wasn't.
Yeah, there was lots and lots of engineering work going into that. I mean, on top of, I think for DeFi chain, it was so much easier to implement the whole thing than for Cake. It sounds absurd, but what you have to think on Cake is we do this split on rewards, right? We have the export features, we have the tax reports, we show everything on staking page. The confectionery score is affected by the new changes. It's like so many new things that we needed to be careful that everything still works, and all the bonuses are paid out fairly, right? So yeah, that was a pretty hard thing, and especially moving from an old freezer share, 10-year freezer share, to the new one. And like, what's the mechanics there, right? What do we do with the staking shares internally? How do we track that, and how do we move these things? It was it was actually a lot of work, and but Dennis did a fantastic job on the back end there. And on top, now we have our mobile app, so we needed to implement 2 user interfaces for the whole system as well, right? So yeah, the older the product and the company gets, the more complicated these things get.
First of all, thanks so much for those really nice words here. Great job. Thank you. We love Cake. Thanks for all the nice benefits. Love you guys. It's super nice. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go through a couple other questions. Great job. Is this planned for liquidity mining as well, Sasha? This is not our decision. At the end, that's a blockchain decision. What we have on Cake is exactly the same freezer that we have for basically on staking as well. Again, I highly doubt that any person that's calculating the math is choosing the old 5 and 10-year freezer because you're making less money than with the new freezer. So that's why if you are a new freezer, I just doubt that anyone, if we would offer both products, anyone in their right mind would choose the old freezer, because for 5 or 10 years, it makes no sense to do so. But on the shorter time frames, the old freezer still exists. And for liquidity mining, also the same concept there exists. I want to make this clear. These freezers are a product that are loyalty to Cake. And that's why we are reducing our fees there. Because that's purely loyalty to us. And on the 5 and 10-year staking freezer, it has nothing actually to do with Cake. And it's just insane amount of work, just like Ben mentioned there. So yeah, but for liquidity mining, the 1.5 or 2x freezer just doesn't exist on Cake because we can't create this product because we need to get it on the blockchain. So yeah, this would have to be a blockchain proposal, has nothing to do with us. Yeah.
Maybe a question I see a lot is, let's say I'm a new user and I froze 1,000 something DFI for 10 years. So I go into my transactions and I see I get about 2 DFI a day. So what I do is 2 DFI a day, 365 days a year. So I get 600 to 700 DFI a year. Oh, that's 60%. I should get 100 or I should get 200. Why is it that I only get 60%? There must be a mistake. Why? Can you maybe explain where I made my or what's wrong with this assumption?
Ben, do you want to go with that?
Yeah, that's probably what you want to talk about, is the differentiation between APR and APY. So one is compounded, one is not. I think for staking right now, we show APY, which is compounded, which makes probably like calculations on what do I get now and what should I expect in the future. Sometimes a little bit harder than if it's just purely APR. Just purely thinking, okay, I get the reward, I don't reinvest it into the platform. Yeah, that's definitely something, or that's something we're discussing right now. The idea is that we show for all services, we show all values, APR and APY, and we educate a little bit better what these actually mean. So that there can no longer be a confusion for new users. And what do I expect, right? Because yeah, I think that's a bit of a that we're lacking a bit there in educating and showing all the possible values that you get from your returns.
I see a couple of regulatory questions. So what would happen if Cake becomes illegal, or what happens if the company ceases to exist? So a couple of things. Actually, one thing, and again, there's also a lot of cost involved in that. One thing we've done, we've started setting up some legal backup where especially private keys and access codes are being distributed in a cryptographic scheme where various lawyers, not alone, but in the case that the company would cease to exist, they would be instructed to then keep this until the release of those masternodes would be happening. And then there would be a distribution back to everyone who is the righteous owner of that. In the unlikely scenario that there would ever happen anything to Cake over the next 10 years, there should be the sustainability of your funds. I'm fairly confident of that. So yeah, I think that was really, really important in that. So I hope that kind of helps a bit here as well.
Okay. I also want to add there, thanks Fabi for letting me know. What also is very important for Cake, the APR, APY values. We always show a history of what rewards did we get in the past. We cannot every number you see in APR, APY on Cake is not indicating what you get in the future. It indicates it depends a bit on the service. Indicates about a week back what Cake received and what they were able to give to the users, right? So everything we show is net. So we actually receive these values, or better to say, the users on our platform receive these values in the last 7 days in average, right? That's what the numbers on Cake are. I think, for example, since we're talking about DeFi chain anyway, there it's a bit different. I think they look at every block or a few blocks, and depending on that value, they approximate what's the current rewards. So that is a bit of a different approach, right? Cake, it's what actually users got in the last 7 days. Yeah, that's very important to note.
Yeah, that's really good. Adding other coins, that is something I discussed this yesterday in the Twitter spaces as well. So adding other coins is definitely on our roadmap, but first we would love to integrate all the verticals of DeFi, and then we would love to look into other coins. So yeah, be it staking or other coins. So that's an important one. What else? Monte Carlo, I don't really understand your question. Do the rewards that are manually put back into the freezer start a new 5? Now I do understand the question. So yes, if you put rewards if you start putting rewards into a freezer, they do start a new 5-year or 10-year time period. Yes, they don't get added to the old one. So you basically open a new freezer, and that takes 5 or 10 years. Yeah. Are we working on an auto freeze feature, Ben? Manuel asks that.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. All these freezer editions on internal in the team. No, it's not planned. I think everybody has like their personal stance on this. I'm just expressing my personal opinion. I would be careful about what you want to automate on Cake, and freezing something for 10 years to me should always be a conscious decision, right? It should always be like, okay, I'm doing this, and there's nobody to blame, no system or so to do this, because most of the things you can like easily revert on Cake. Like you can unstake your shares, you can withdraw your funds again. But for 10-year freezer, for example, if we start automating that, yeah, it gets very tricky. Yeah, that's my personal stance. Yeah, maybe I know other team members would probably do it, but it's difficult.
Mate asks, how does the build your cash flow calculator work up? So we're trying to use the current numbers that the blockchain provides, and we try to model the future. Now, that's a pure like guesstimation, and this guesstimation is probably not correct. Why? Because it constantly gets changed. So we just try to show you that the freezer has an impact on your rewards. And we just try to show that to you, but obviously it has so many effects. It depends on what the blockchain votes on. That's actually such a huge factor, right? Does the blockchain vote rewards up, vote rewards down? What is the price of a coin doing, right? So again, and all we're trying to do is we try to model that somehow, but at the end, that's nothing else than a model. And if there's one thing for certain, then it's making predictions about the future is close to impossible. So all we're trying to do is give you a mathematical model on that. Philosophical question: what happens if there is a fork? Let me think this through. I mean, if there's a fork, then at the end, all the platforms that integrated DeFi chain would have to pick which fork they want to be on, and that's what's. I mean, both freezers would sit on both forks, and then again, every platform either integrates both forks. Depends on how important the forks are or who's forking it, or there's just one fork and then the other side becomes stale. Awesome. Thank you. Is there an official channel to submit coins? Sure. I mean, on Telegram, I think always an interesting one. Maybe also on Reddit. These would be interesting kind of points, which coins you would like to see and feedback you would like to see.
Maybe a question that also some users are interested in. We are 1 week in, so 7 days since we started up the masternodes of the new freezer. And where in the process of full rewards are we? Is it are we halfway there? Are we almost there? Or
I don't know that answer. Ben, do you know?
You can actually look that up. Everybody can look that up themselves. You go to app.cakedefi.com, and then you go to staking, and you see all the nodes we have there. And let me check. And where is it? Yeah, currently, I think we spun up about 1,000. I think it was 1,049 nodes or something new. And of all those, only 95 are left who receive their first rewards. So I think we're about 90% there. Yeah, cool. But as I mentioned, you can look that up yourself. Just go to masternode status on app.cakedefi.com/staking.
There are no stupid questions, so any question works, Robin. Which percentage do you think the staking rewards will stabilize over time in? That's impossible for me to guesstimate, but at the end, it always comes down to at what rate are you willing to stake your capital, and what does it compete with? So I don't know. Are you willing to lock up your capital for 1%? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we're in times where 1% is just absolutely insane. Today, I don't think anyone is locking up their capital for 1%, simply because we're yield is just crazy in DeFi. So it always depends on the times. Maybe we have so much deflation. Who knows? So much deflation over in 5 years, where anyone is just happy to get 1%. I don't know. You're awesome, guys. Thank you. Thanks for answering all the questions. You guys are killers. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Maybe I have a stupid question. So if I look at my rewards a lot as a user, and then I see I don't know, the numbers dropped slightly, or I get a different reward today than I got yesterday, or a different reward than I got a month ago or so. Is it possible that the system makes a mistake just for me and for nobody else? Is it then, do I need to go to the customer support and tell them to look into my account that the reward system is not working properly? Or
let me say something, and then I'll give it to Ben. Of course, any system can have a mistake. I would never deny that, right? So I want to say that. But I promise you, in 99.99999% of the times, it is explainable, or it is that the rewards comes a bit later. Sometimes I would just highly recommend to put down your dopamine, and I get it. Like, you are expecting your reward to come in and you need that dopamine hit, but sometimes it just pays off to just wait a little bit, and it just comes in a bit later. Or check Telegram or check Twitter, because we maybe have announced that, I don't know, there's a database update and your reward will come in later. If you are, again, if your dopamine hit is done, and there's no update on Twitter and no one is talking about it on Telegram, and you're still certain that you're missing a reward, then I think Fabrizio and the customer team is looking forward to your email. But in 99.999% of the times, is actually not the right solution. But that's a bit on the business side. But Ben, I don't know, maybe you want to share a bit on what are typical cases on when rewards maybe come in a bit later, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a very, very good explanation. Cannot really add a lot there. Just to differentiate, for rewards, yeah, we have to treat everybody the same, and we want to treat everybody the same. If there's a payout missing, then it means the payout is missing for everybody, right? It's like kind of atomic. We don't pay out some users and then the system breaks down. So it's either everybody or nobody, right? What can happen though, it's not rewards, it's maybe deposits or withdrawals, maybe something could go wrong there. It's very individual there. So if there's issues and something seems wrong, then yeah, please always connect with customer support.
Florian asks, would we freeze our DFI if people don't switch over to the new freezer? I think pretty much anyone switched over, but we wouldn't, actually, we're not allowed to do anything for the customer that the customer doesn't instruct us to do. So we would leave it, I think, in the old note, but I'm not even sure we have, maybe we still have a note or something on the old system, but I think it's a negligible amount. Again, anyone in their right mind does the math and realizes that the new freezer, with the same kind of concept, pays them more money. So yeah, I think I'm sure. I mean, there's sure someone who's like revolting or just for the sake of it, or just to make a statement, is not switching over. And then no, we wouldn't use someone's funds, not how they intended it to do, but yeah, that's but I think it's absolutely negligible in total.
Maybe for
yeah, Fabio.
maybe for users that joined us in Q4, Q1, or Q2 this year, there is a little bit of a irregularity when it comes to the APY. So when you go 1 year back in September of 2020, we were actually, I think, around 60% APY, which is lower than what it is right now. And it just went up. I think it was in April or in May, due to the coin burn, and it was extremely high for a short period amount of time. But this was expected that this only was for a certain amount of time. Maybe one of you can touch on that a little bit as well, because lots of people are asking, hey, why is the APY going down? And yeah.
I mean, it's exactly that point, right? So the staking rewards, just like, imagine it this way. The Bitcoin mining rewards stayed at 6.25, but suddenly half of the miners switch off their mining nodes. So what happens to the other half? Suddenly they get more of those 6.25 Bitcoin. And the exact same thing happened when suddenly a lot of miners, stakers dropped out, and then the remaining stakers, they had a bigger share of the staking rewards. And so that basically happened. And that ties in really nice here with Michael's question. When do those staking rewards go to zero? First of all, that has nothing to do with Cake. Cake doesn't I mean, yes, we do care, but Cake has no say in that. At the end, that's a blockchain related question. And the DeFi chain community has voted on how those rewards go down. The best is to look into the pink paper that was put out, where the reward schedule is kind of explained, and you can kind of calculate that for yourself. And then remember, that's just like knowing how the Bitcoin rewards are going down. At the end, what matters is how many people are mining Bitcoin to understand their return. It's the same for staking. So if you ask me what's going to be your return in 5 years' time, I don't know, because it depends on how many people are actually staking, how many people care about those rewards. It may be a lot, then your return is super small. It may be that you're the only one, and then the return is super high. So it's just impossible to make such a prediction. Yeah, because it depends on so many factors. So I hope that helps a bit there. The new freezer is great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the answer. I love the Monday emails. There's a question here on regulation in general. Am I concerned about the SEC? How do I see this? So for us, there's a reason on why we are in Singapore. I think Singapore has this really nice mix from being open to cryptocurrencies, but at the same time, they're actually relatively strict on crypto regulation. MAS, the monetary authority here of Singapore, they are very, very strict with their companies. And look at Binance. Most countries in the world, they just let Binance operate, right? They kind of give a warning, or they say, you know what, you shouldn't be doing this, and there's a slap on the finger. Singapore doesn't do that. Singapore goes and says, whoop, you're banned, straight away. And they're doing this because they have a very, I don't want to say a very clear rule book on every single rule, but I think from all the regulators in the world, I think they're doing, they are at the forefront in establishing rules, and this is what you are very likely allowed to do, and these are the things that you're very likely not allowed to do. And so Cake is in communication with MAS. We're in this process of getting a license from MAS. So at the moment, we're in the sandbox. There's an entire list. I think it's 300 companies in Singapore. Everyone is waiting right now. There's not a DBS is the only one that actually got a license. So that's the largest bank here in Singapore for that crypto kind of framework. And hopefully at some point we also get that license, and we don't have a timeline for that. But so we are ready for that. We're sticking to all the rules that are given to us. We to the best of our knowledge, we are trying to abide by them. Actually, part of our audit that we are undergoing, the PCOB audit, actually there is this compliance and regulatory audit as part of that, where we get this sign off that shows yes, Cake is actually doing all these things and abides by that. So I mean, all these things are we're doing them for a reason, because on the one hand we have this predictability from a business standpoint, and at the same time we do have rules that work internationally really well when it comes to FATF and so on. So of course there are still specific country rules like the SEC puts out for the US, and we're watching and we're following those very closely. Now, to be honest, the US market is not a key market for us. We don't actively pursue customers in the US. We don't actively do marketing there. It's not a key market to us. For us, the key markets are Southeast Asia and they are Europe, and that's it. So even if the US, even if the SEC would go super rogue against crypto, honestly, it wouldn't have that much of an impact to us. We're following, like, I think we're following the rules very well. I think one of the reasons, for example, Coinbase or BlockFi also has a lot of these issues is because they're not transparent. These companies don't show their customers what's happening. They make decisions for the customers. We don't do that at all. We are super transparent. Now, could we do a better way? Could we be better in showing this to you, explaining this, having better UI? Of course, I 100% agree with you. And the team is constantly sitting there and saying, how can we communicate that easier to the customer? But at the end, the information is there. And that's what lawyers and legal and compliance cares about. So we are watching all the development, especially when it comes to regulatory and compliance issues all around the world. But I'm fairly certain and I'm fairly confident that Cake is in a really good position in what we're doing. Also, I want to highlight, we are not an exchange. So with that, completely different rules in comparison to exchanges. We don't have fiat on our platform. Completely different ball game to so many other platforms. And I'm telling you this because I think many people underestimate the kind of foresight that this company has. And in comparison to many, many, many other companies, regulation is about to catch up with so many platforms. And I just think the way Cake is structured and the way the team is structured and how it's positioned, I think a lot of foresight in there. And I think over the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of clampdowns for a lot of companies. And I'm fairly confident that we at Cake are well prepared for that. So, yeah. What has to happen for the APY to rise in the short term? Fewer people getting a slice of the cake. So that means fewer people staking, or the blockchain. I mean, that's the people, or the blockchain voting on raising the rewards. So you can put out a proposal on any blockchain and say, hey, I want more rewards, and maybe you get enough support for that. Thanks, Julian. Great job. Appreciate it. Cool. I think no other Cake related questions, especially to the freezer. I hope, guys, that answers all this, and yeah, just really kind of highlights and focuses on how we try to deliver that service and product to you, and how we are trying to be as transparent and as clear as possible. I get it. We can always raise the bar and we can always do better of a job here. And that's why we're doing this live, right? I mean, look, it's 9 p.m. here. Ben is like super busy with the team. Fabio has so many things going on at the same time. So like everyone is like, could do 60 other things, right? Don't get me wrong. But we are doing this because we really know that even though the product is fantastic and works just as planned, sometimes we have to do more explaining, or we have to do a bit of highlighting on the individual topics. And I think that's that's why we're doing this. And I hope that gives value to you, and I hope that really explains a lot of things. And then I also know that probably 99% of you understand all those things and know all those things, and you're watching this and you're like, I don't even understand what's the questions here. And it's just like quite obvious. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the nice messages, and I appreciate all the support, and really that's why we do this. But then at the same time, we do want to make this clear to customers that do have fair and relevant questions, and we hope we try to solve those and help you explain those. So yeah, so I just want to say thanks for all the support, and for you being a customer, and for being with us on this really exciting journey. We have so many more exciting things, hopefully, on the roadmap. And so definitely a really nice way to go. With that, thanks so much, Fabio and Ben. Ben, do you want to share anything from the tech and product side? Anything that you want to share from like as a team growth, or like some of the feedback that you have seen, or feedback from the team, or anything that you want to share as the lead on the engineering and product side a bit?
Good question. Constantly growing on a team. We still look for talented JavaScript engineers for Caketify. So if you're an engineer and you want to participate, please drop a message. Just really excited for the product map. We hopefully can share a bit more what we planned on Q4 soon, but definitely a lot of great features coming to Cake. Cool.
Fabio, from your angle, I know that from the three of us, you're in touch with the community the most.
A special and big shout out to Fabrizio and Pedar. Both of them, they work in customer support, and they were like overwhelmed with questions surrounding the 2x freezers, just users that wanted to understand it a little bit better and didn't know where their rewards were or why it changed, and should they do it or should they not do it. And they were like really working long hours during the weekends to answer all of your requests. And also a big shout out to all of our moderators that are constantly
I wanted to say that as well.
Answering all of your questions in the chat. And please keep in mind, they're community volunteers. They're doing this in their free time, and they're really, like, some of them especially, I know everybody's doing an amazing job, but especially Michael in the German and in the English chat. He's like from the first minute in the morning until almost midnight, he's all day in the chats answering everything, and has patience of an angel. Like he the same question over and over and over again for months. Thanks. At this point, if you want to be a moderator as well, please let me know. Drop me a DM on
good sell here, Fabio. Good sell.
It's lots of fun, and especially if you are in the Asia Pacific time zone. So if you're I don't know, in Singapore, India, or that would be much appreciated. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, I really want to say thanks from all of us. Thanks to moderators, but the entire community and everyone helping out. Really appreciate you all. So hey, take care, stay safe, and thanks for being customer of ours. So many more exciting things to come. Really much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.